August 1944. The skies above London were meant to be a highway of terror. Yet, for the German High Command, a perplexing anomaly emerged. Their V-1 flying bombs, Hitler's vaunted Vergeltumwaffe 1, were disappearing. Not just a few, but an astonishing 82% intercepted. This figure seems statistically impossible. General Erich Heinemann, overseeing the V-weapons program, demanded immediate, thorough investigations. Engineers meticulously analyzed every recovered fragment, every piece of telemetry data, every operational report from launch sites across the channel. Yet, the conclusions were unwavering. The V-1s themselves were performing flawlessly. Their pulse jet engines roared consistently. Their basic guidance systems maintained course. The problem, therefore, lay not with their weapon, but squarely with the British defense. What clandestine technology, what revolutionary tactic could possibly be rendering their unstoppable buzz bomb so utterly ineffective? The mystery deepened with every failed inquiry, leaving Berlin strategists in a state of growing disbelief. This deepening mystery, however, began with a weapon forged in the crucible of retribution, a weapon intended to break the spirit of London. Hitler's Vergeltumwaffe 1, or V-1, represented a chilling new chapter in aerial warfare. Officially designated the Fieseler F-103, this pilotless aircraft was, in essence, the world's first operational cruise missile. Launched from catapults along the French and Dutch coasts, the V-1 was a marvel of early propulsion, powered by an Argus AS-014 pulse jet engine, emitting its distinctive, terrifying buzz. Each V-1 carried a formidable 1,870-pound warhead of Amatol explosive, equivalent to a small bomber. It flew at a cruising speed of approximately 400 miles per hour, at an altitude between 2,000 and 4,000 feet. Its guidance system, a simple gyroscope, kept it on a preset course, until a small propeller counted off enough rotations to trigger a dive towards its target. Upon its introduction in June 1944, the V-1 campaign unleashed an unprecedented wave of terror across England. These buzz bombs, arriving seemingly at random, caused widespread panic and significant damage. Over 10,000 V-1s were launched towards Britain, with approximately 2,400 reaching London alone, claiming thousands of civilian lives. Conventional anti-aircraft artillery and fighter aircraft found themselves severely challenged. The V-1's relatively small size, combined with its high speed and mid-range altitude, made it an exceedingly difficult target to engage effectively. A direct hit from a timed shell, or a precise burst from an intercepting Spitfire or Tempest was almost always required. The odds against such accuracy were daunting.
Von den Research Facilities an Peenemünde, deutsche Wissenschaftler hielten einen eisernen Glauben. Ihre Vergeltungswaffe 1, die V1, war eine terrorisierende Waffe, die nicht stoppt konnte. Mit remarkable Geschwindigkeit, etwa 640 km pro Stunde und relativ kompakter Size, wurde es konzidiert einem almost unmöglichen Target. Hitlers Designer beliebten, das V1 würde einen optimalen Altitude fliegen, etwa 600 bis 900 Meter, eine diffizile Zone für beide Anti-Aircraft-Artillerie und traditionelle Fighter-Aircraft, komplett unkompatibel mit den Fähigkeiten von aller Defense-Technologie, die Allies deployen konnten. Erste Battlefield-Realität prüfte diese Furcht. Allied Fighter Pilots, selbst in agilen Spitfire Mk-14 und powerful Hawker Tempests, fehlten eine schwere Aufgabe und oft eine suizidale eine. Chasing a smallest target, jet-powered, bei 640 km pro Stunde, requirierte extreme Präzision. Pilots haben sandsmals desperate Taktiken zu erlassen, like tippen an den V1 Wingtip mit ihrem eigenen Wing, um seinen Gyroskop zu destabilisieren. Ein Dangerous-Manöver mit einem desaströs lowen Success Rate. Auf der Grund massive Anti-Aircraft-Batterien, eine formidable Anlage von konventionellen Waffen, feuerten Tausende, Zehntausende von Rounds in den Sky. However, diese traditionelle Defense-Systeme, designed für Manned Aircraft mit prädiktiblen Flugpaden, waren komplett defiziert. Deren Timed Fuses, kalibriert für larger, more manövrierbare Targets, waren konsistent ineffektiv gegen den kleinen Profil und konstante, unerschütterliche Trajektorie der V1. Die Despair in London war palpabel. Every time der charakteristische Engine der Flying Bomb fiel silent, war ein Moment von angsterregender Suspense, eine Random Death Sentence. Die initiale Interception Rate, reichend nur etwa 15%, paintete ein grimmes Bild, eine City unter Siege, sehnlich defenslos gegen Hitlers neue robotische Terror. Yet, amidst diesem grimmen Tableau, eine subtile, yet unvermissbare Transformation begann zu entfalten entlang den englischen Channel. Initial hatten die Defensen Schwierigkeiten, überwältigt von der schieren Volumen und Geschwindigkeit der V1-Onslaught. Aber als Juli 1944 progressierte, britische Fighter Squadrons und Anti-Aircraft-Batterien reportierten einen eskalierenden Erfolgsrat. Die Statistics, metikulös kompiliert, startete zu zeigen einen dramatischen Aufwärtstrend von dem desperaten 15%. German Intelligence, always diligent in der Aerial Reconnaissance und metikulöse Analyse von Impact Sites, notete dieses perplexe Shift. Deren Reports von Agenten und fotografischer Evidenz indizierten für W1 regelten ihre Ziele. Was trülich confoundete sie, war die Observation, dass dieser Improved Performance seemt zu requirieren signifikant weniger Ammunition per downten Missil. Conventional Wisdom diktierte, dass Increased Kills würde necessitieren eine korrespondierende Anstieg in Ordnance Expended. Yet hier, die britische Waren erreichen mehr, mit was erschien deutlich weniger. Diese Anomalie sparkte intense Spekulation, Winnen der Wehrmachts-Scientific und strategischen Zirkeln. Dr. Werner von Brauns Team an Peenemünde metikulös reexaminierte deren V1-Designs, suchten nach irgendeinem inhärenten Fehler, irgendeiner strukturellen Schwäche, die diese sudene Vulnerabilität erklären könnte. Ihre exhaustiven Tests ergaben nichts. Der Bassbomb remained bei ihrer eigenen Analyse eine Waffe von unerschrockener Resilienz. Die einzige logische Konklusion, eine wispert mit großer Beunruhigung, war, dass die Allies, speziell die britischen, sekret ein neues, revolutionäres System von Anti-Aircraft-Defense aufgestellt hatten, ungleich allem, was die Welt je gesehen hatte. Die präzise Natur dieses unsichtbaren Vorteils blieb eine profunde Mysterium, verhüllt im Fogs of War.
The mystery of Britain's anti-aircraft success was finally unveiled. The key reason lay in a top-secret technology which the Allies had developed with the highest priority. That was the proximity fuse, also known as the VT fuse. Far different from traditional impact fuses or timed fuses, which required almost impossible accuracy, the VT fuse was a revolutionary invention. It contained a miniature radar transmitter and receiver inside the artillery shell's warhead. Once fired, this unit continuously emitted radio waves and listened for the reflected signal. When the shell approached the target, such as a V-1 flying bomb, the reflected signal changed in intensity, triggering an electronic circuit and detonating the warhead instantly. This meant that a shot did not need to be a direct hit. It only needed to fly close enough to inflict damage. It transformed every shell into a flying mine capable of seeking its own target. The level of secrecy surrounding the VT fuse was absolute. It was strictly guarded, on par with the atomic bomb project, the Manhattan Project. U.S. and British intelligence officials codenamed it VT, short for variable time, to conceal its true function. Its power had to be kept secret at all costs. The development process was led by the U.S. Office of Scientific Research and Development, OSRD. Specifically Team T at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory under the direction of Dr. Merle Tuve. They transformed a science fiction concept into an effective tool of war in less than 3 years, at a colossal but worthy cost. While Allied engineers transformed speculative science into battlefield reality, German scientists, for all their undisputed brilliance, grappled with the same challenges and ultimately failed to produce a similar device. The technical chasm was immense. Miniaturizing a complete radar transmitter and receiver, along with its delicate vacuum tubes, to fit within a projectile seemed, to many German experts, an insurmountable feat. Furthermore, the components had to withstand the cataclysmic forces of launch. An artillery shell, upon firing, endured accelerations reaching tens of thousands of Gs. Such pressures, they believed, would instantly pulverize any known electronic circuitry. German engineering, despite its formidable reputation, assessed these requirements as simply too stringent. Their own vacuum tube technology, often larger and less robust than their American counterparts, could not meet such extreme specifications. They envisioned technical barriers that were, in their estimation, insurmountable. A dilemma they saw no practical solution for within the compressed timeline of wartime development. This wasn't merely a disparity in resources, it was a fundamental divergence in technical vision and the belief in the industrial scalability of such advanced scientific principles under the crucible of war.
Weil deutsche Scientisten debattierten die technischen Barrieren concerning the impossibility eines automatischen Fuse, amerikanische Industrie hat klein wenig konvertiert ein komplexes scientifisches Marvel in ein Steel Shield massproduziert. Dies war nicht merely eine Erfindung, sondern eine Revolution in Manufaktur-Capability. Factories across the United States, von Sylvania Electric Products in Emporium, Pennsylvania, zu der National Carbon Company, wurden konvertiert und optimiert zu produzieren Tausende von Proximity Fuses every day. Tausende von Ingenieure und Worker labored tirelessly zu turnen ein sophisticated device, enthalten eine tiny Radiotransmitter und Vakuumtubes in ein Produkt, das könnte manufakturiert werden auf einem unpräzedenteten industriellen Skala. Die technische Challenge war immens. Jede Fuse hatte zu der Durabilität besitzen, um die enormen G-Forces von dem Feuern von Artillerie auszuhalten, weil still maintainen die präzise Sensitivität erforderlich war, um ein Target zu detektieren, nur Meter weg. Ensuring Quality und Reliability in einer Massproduktions-Environment demandete enorme Innovationen in Prozesse und Materialien, ein Testament zu der Ingeniosität von amerikanischer Ingenieursleistung. Und sie succeedeten, spektakulärlich. Am Peak in 1944, Daily Output regelmäßig exceedete 50.000 Units, mit einem Total von über 7 Millionen Fuses manufakturiert das Jahr allein. Dieses industrielle Might turnt eine brillante Idee in einen unwiderlegbaren strategischen Vorteil, ein Volumen von Waffen, das nur eine andere Nation konnte match. Bei August 1944, der britische Air Defense System hat untergangen eine profunde Transformation. No longer reliant auf mehr visuelles Einsehen oder Layer-Accurate Radar-Systeme, ein neues, integriertes Netzwerk hat erreicht sein operationales Zenit. Dieses formidable Layered Defense nun kombiniert Cutting-Edge-Radar-Technologie mit der revolutionären Proximity Fuse. At its core war der amerikanisch developed SCR-584 Radar. Dieses avante System, deployed by Anti-Aircraft Artillery Batteries, offerte unpräzedente Akkuratät in Tracking der Fast-Moving V-1. Its automatic plotting capabilities erlaubte Gun Crews zu locken auf Targets mit remarkable precision, feeding real-time data direkt zu den Gun Directors. Dies removed much of the human error inhärent in ehrlicher aiming methods. But precision targeting alone was not enough. The true game changer remained der VT-Fuse, speziell der Mark 53 Modell. When fired from the formidable 3,7-inch anti-aircraft guns, diese Shells nun no longer required a direct impact, eine nahe Unmöglichkeit gegen ein kleines, fast-moving Target like der W1. Instatt der Fuses Tiny Radiotransmitter senste die Proximity der Buzzbomb detonierend den High Explosive Warhead in einem Lethal Radius. Die Synergie war devastierend. Der SCR-584-Radar präzise guidete die Shells in die Flugpath der W1, weil der VT-Fuse sicherte eine ungarantierte Kill once within range. Am 28. August 1944, ein Tag, sah 82% aller eingehender W1 Shot-Down über britischem Luftraum. Dies war nicht eine Anomalie, sondern die Peak-Performance eines Systems meticulous moment, ein Iron Shield of Exploding Steel, protecting London von fairer Devastation. Trotz dieser incredible Success Rate ist es kruzial zu erkennen, die schwere Skala der deutschen Offensive. Even with 82% der W1 intercepted, Hunderte still richten ihre Ziele, causen signifikante Kasinen und Destruktionen auf der Hauptstadt. Die Battle war eine konstante Rase gegen die relative Wellen dieser Terrorwaffen, demanden immense logistische Aufwand und eine kolossale Ausgabe von Munition, even während Effizienz soarte. Die Tod, trotz mitigiert, remained palpable. Dieses kombinierte technologische Might transformierte den V1 von einem existenziellen Tod in eine kostliche, ineffiziente Nuse. Er saved countless lives, preserved infrastructure und signifikant boostete Allied Moral, prüfend, dass selbst Hitlers Vengeance Weapons könnten tamed werden durch superiore Ingenieure und industrielle Prowess.
Despite the undeniable data regarding the increasingly tragic fate of the V-1s over London, the German High Command remained baffled. The 82% kill rate by August 1944 was a dizzying change, completely contradicting their technical predictions and initial intelligence reports. Special technical commissions, hastily formed, began an extensive internal investigation. They scoured every launch report, analyzed every piece of V-1 debris recovered from failed attacks, from the pulse jet engine to their sophisticated gyroscopic guidance systems. Hundreds of hours of work by top missile engineers were dedicated to searching for some defect, a design flaw, or a weakness in the production chain. However, the results of their investigation always yielded the same confusing conclusion. The V-1, operationally, remained perfect. They launched correctly, held their course, and showed no signs of mechanical failure that could account for the horrific destruction rate. Unable to accept the failure of their own weapon, German military analysts were forced to turn their attention outward. With all internal evidence suggesting the V-1 was functioning correctly, the Germans arrived at a false conclusion, yet seemingly logical to them. Britain must have developed a completely new air defense system, a revolutionary type of anti-aircraft gun, or a next-generation fighter aircraft with interception capabilities they had never imagined. They sought an equivalent technological opponent, an obvious new weapon, but completely overlooked the possibility of a simple yet revolutionary improvement that had been integrated into the Allies' existing defense systems. It was a perfect misdirection, aided by Germany's own confidence and technological limitations. The proximity fuse, known internally as Project B, was arguably the most closely guarded technological secret of the Second World War, second only perhaps to the Manhattan Project itself. Its existence, its capabilities, remained shrouded in an impenetrable veil, a silence that defied the chaos of total war. Even as early versions saw limited action, primarily in naval engagements over water, the Allies were meticulously vigilant. The threat of recovered duds, those vital devices that failed to detonate and potentially fell into enemy hands, was a constant pressing concern. German intelligence bureaus naturally expended considerable effort analyzing every fragment, every captured component. Yet, their findings consistently misidentified or critically dismissed the true nature of the device.
This strategic blindness, this profound critical oversight, stemmed partly from their own entrenched scientific assessments and partly from deliberate, sophisticated Allied counterintelligence operations. German engineers, having themselves struggled for years to develop similar active sensing concepts, had definitively dismissed the feasibility of such a robust, mass-producible fuse as technologically impossible. They frequently misinterpreted its intricate internal circuitry, its miniature radar emitter and receiver, often categorizing them merely as sophisticated barometric switches or rudimentary impact mechanisms, thereby overlooking the profound implications of its true capabilities. The extraordinary operational security, the rigorous training of Allied ordnance specialists handling these devices, and the carefully devised deployment protocols all contributed to this impenetrable shield of secrecy. Early models, specifically designated for naval use against ships and aircraft over open water, were designed to mostly sink if unexploded, drastically reducing the chance of intact recovery. This multi-layered defensive information, meticulously maintained throughout the war's most intense periods, ensured that even when fragments or rare complete examples fell into enemy hands, their true tactical significance remained frustratingly opaque, a technological phantom baffling the most astute minds of the German High Command's scientific bureaus.
The V-1 campaign, a desperate gamble by Hitler, ultimately proved to be a strategic failure of immense proportions. Germany poured unprecedented resources into this vengeance weapon. Thousands of tons of steel, critical alloys, and precious fuel were diverted from other more decisive war efforts. Its production was tragically reliant on the forced labor of concentration camp prisoners, enduring unspeakable conditions within vast underground factories like Mittelbau-Dora. Over 30,000 V-1 flying bombs were manufactured, a monumental industrial undertaking, yet only about 9,500 were ever launched against England. Of these, the vast majority never reached their intended targets. This massive investment in materials and human suffering yielded a remarkably low return in terms of strategic impact, a costly diversion of Germany's dwindling war economy. From the German High Command's perspective, the V-1 represented a psychological weapon, a terror bomber designed to break British morale. They believed its sheer numbers and unstoppable nature would overwhelm London's defenses. This blind faith in the V-1's perceived invincibility prevented a true re-evaluation of its effectiveness, even as interception rates soared. They simply could not conceive of a countermeasure so elegant yet so devastatingly effective. From the German High Command's perspective, the V-1 represented a psychological weapon, a terror bomber designed to break British morale. They believed its sheer numbers and unstoppable nature would overwhelm London's defenses. This blind faith in the V-1's perceived invincibility prevented a true re-evaluation of its effectiveness, even as interception rates soared. They simply could not conceive of a countermeasure so elegant yet so devastatingly effective. From the German High Command's perspective, the V-1 represented a psychological weapon, a terror bomber designed to break British morale. They believed its sheer numbers and unstoppable nature would overwhelm London's defenses. This blind faith in the V-1's perceived invincibility prevented a true re-evaluation of its effectiveness, even as interception rates soared. They simply could not conceive of a countermeasure so elegant yet so devastatingly effective. From the German High Command's perspective, the V-1 represented a psychological weapon, a terror bomber designed to break British morale. They believed its sheer numbers and unstoppable nature would overwhelm London's defenses. This blind faith in the V-1's perceived invincibility prevented a true re-evaluation of its effectiveness, even as interception rates soared. They simply could not conceive of a countermeasure so elegant yet so devastatingly effective. Meanwhile, across the channel, the humble proximity fuse, developed by American engineers and manufactured by American industry, stood as London's silent guardian. This ingenious device turned every anti-aircraft shell into a precision instrument, creating a veritable iron shield in the skies against the incoming drone. It was a testament not just to scientific brilliance, but to the unparalleled industrial capacity that could mass-produce such sophisticated technology on a scale unimaginable to the Axis powers. The V-1, a weapon born of desperation and terror, became a symbol of Germany's technological hubris and strategic misjudgment. Its ultimate failure was not due to inherent design flaws, but to an unseen technological countermeasure which saved countless lives, preserved the morale of a nation, and ultimately tilted the balance in the relentless scientific war fought high above the battlefields.
As the war concluded and Allied intelligence began debriefing captured German scientists, a profound revelation awaited them. The leading German ordnance experts who had designed the V-1 and dismissed the possibility of a reliable proximity fuse were presented with the very technology that had thwarted their revenge weapon. Their initial reaction was one of utter disbelief, bordering on professional humiliation. They had deemed such a device too complex, too delicate for mass production, let alone deployment in the harsh realities of combat. The shock was not merely at the existence of the fuse itself, but at the sheer scale of its deployment. The American industrial machine, often underestimated by the Axis powers, had transformed a laboratory marvel into a battlefield staple. By 1945, over 22 million VT fuses had been manufactured, a testament to an industrial capacity that dwarfed anything Germany could conceive or execute under wartime conditions. This wasn't just about a single brilliant invention, but the systematic engineering prowess to produce it reliably and in overwhelming quantities. Yet, even with this formidable countermeasure, the V-1 campaign still inflicted significant damage and psychological terror upon London. Over 9,000 V-1s were launched at Britain, with around 2,419 reaching the capital, killing over 6,000 civilians and injuring many more. The VT fuse, while drastically reducing the threat, could not eliminate it entirely. Its success lay in mitigating the strategic impact, forcing the Germans to shift targets, and ultimately rendering the V-1 a costly, if terrifying, tactical nuisance rather than the war-winning weapon Hitler envisioned. The true lesson of the VT fuse transcended the immediate conflict. It underscored that modern warfare was irrevocably shifting from a contest of individual heroism or even singular weapon platforms to a brutal competition of industrial systems and integrated technological networks. The ability to innovate, to miniaturize complex electronics, and, crucially, to mass-produce them with unwavering reliability became the ultimate arbiter of military supremacy. The VT fuse was not merely a brilliant piece of engineering, it was a profound symbol of an era where science and industrial might became the decisive, silent architects of victory.